Hi, welcome back to the podcast, HOA Hell. I'm your host, Michael Kushner, and with me, as always, is Senior Associate from MBK Chapman, Sam Khil. Sam, good morning.
Morning, Mike. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Sam, we're going to do things very differently today. Today, we're going to talk about the new groundbreaking book that's coming out, or that's going to be released on December 15th of this year, but it's already available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble for pre-order.
Right.
On Amazon, it's available as an ebook for Kindle, and on BarnesandNoble.com, it's available softcover or hardcover. And we're going to talk about that book today. And so you're going to be taking over as the host of the show, because you spent some time in preparing the outline this time. I normally do, but you prepared a list of questions to interview me and to talk about the book.
Right.
And since you're mentioned in the book actually as one of the people that helped me or that proofread and kind of looked through it. You were one of my proofreaders. You're one of the ones I name in my acknowledgments to thank you. So I know you've read the book because you proofread the book. So I'm going to turn control of this interview over to you. You've got notes in front of you. I too have notes. I have the same notes you do. You gave me an outline of what we were going to talk about, and so I might refer to my notes because I added some things that I wanted to make sure I said and I didn't forget to say. But other than that, these are your questions, and let's go.
No, thank you, Mike.
You're in charge.
Let me start off by congratulating you. I know it's very exciting. Thank you for having me participate in the process.
You didn't have to say any of this. I did not make him say any of this.
No, of course not. Yeah, no. But just very candidly, it was exciting seeing this project come to fruition, and I'm so glad that you completed it, in the manner that you did, and I appreciate the input you allowed me to have in terms of the proofreading process and just generally being on the sidelines.
Let me ask you a question. Because when I started writing this in May, I started coming in. So I always came into the office very early. I usually got here, my normal time prior to May of this year of getting in the office was about 4:15. I'm a morning person, so that's what time I get in. I started coming in at 2:30 or earlier, didn't I?
Unbelievable.
And to this day, I still am. I haven't been able to break that. So I actually get into the office. Every morning, I walk into this office anywhere from 2:20 to 2:40, usually right around 2:30 within 2 or 3 minutes of that, but it has varied a little bit.
I don't know how
Sometimes earlier when I have insomnia, I come in the ones, actually, and I send you guys an email when I do that saying, I'm here.
You do. True story. He absolutely does. And I don't know how you do it, but I admire it.
But that's what I did, and that's when I wrote.
Yeah. And so you've been very personally vested in terms of just kind of pouring so much of you and your wealth of knowledge that you've amassed over the 30 years or so that you've practiced in this area of law into this project. So it's a compendium, really, of all of that come to fruition.
That's why I'm proud of it.
With that said, let's just...
let's give the title. So the book is called HOA Hell, California Homeowners Definitive Guide to Beating Bad HOAs.
Right.
And when I say definitive guide, I mean a practical step-by-step definitive guide. And we're going to get into that. And there's also an accompanying article that I am in the middle of writing right now. I started it this morning at about 3:30. And so that article is going to come out probably tomorrow, probably before this episode gets released. So by the time you guys are hearing this episode, that article will be finished. It's a compendium article that goes with this, and I think you might want to read that as well. And you'll find it on our website, mbkchapman.com. Just go over to the what is the tab? Library tab, and then you can select articles from the drop down. Okay, but all right, now you're in charge.
So normally, Mike, when we do these podcasts, we navigate a whole slew of issues of interest to homeowners within HOAs. We teach them and cover California HOA law. So this is a bit different, obviously, as we introduced at the outset. I've read the cover, the book cover to cover, and honestly, the cover, the title to the book is very fitting. It is a very comprehensive, thorough guide. It does a fantastic job of running the readers through the various issues. I mean, pretty much A through Z that may arise in an HOA and these common interest developments.
I took the important ones.
Right. And I've seen some of the competition out there. I mean, some of these other products that are out there, the leading ones, in terms of that previously ranked near the top within this area, and they don't even come close. I mean, these books are, just very a cursory, lacking nuance, not really a practical guide that the average homeowner in HOAs may use to actually have a game plan in terms of navigating some of these issues that you and I routinely discuss. So today, I mean, obviously we're turning the tables a little bit, and you're not here in the capacity, well, although you are, of the lead host and managing partner, but more so as the author of this fantastic book. So let's just get into it. What made you decide to write this book at this stage?
I have a few reasons. So look, for years, and I talk about this in the introduction, I watched homeowners lose fights that they shouldn't have lost. And not because the law wasn't on their side, but because the law's complex. It's a system. The Davis-Sterling Act is the law that governs residential homeowner associations in California. And the Davis-Sterling Act is a compendium of statutes, all in the civil code. Okay, so there's a lot of statutes there. Not always the best written, not written for everyday people. It's just not how laws are written. Laws are written the way IRS code is written, And so I watched these for years, these homeowners struggle. And it's not because the law wasn't on their side, it's just because they didn't understand how to apply the law, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, I go into this in the intro. I talk about how this niche area that I developed, and I was literally the first one to do this, to develop this systematic means of approaching HOA cases in terms of pre-litigation and litigation as separate animals.
Right.
Okay, it was the first one that I know of to ever do that. And the two law firms that are our biggest competitors their founding partners all worked for me, and they learned their systems from me, and they are using the systems and practices and procedures that I taught them. Maybe not, lock, stock, and barrel, but if not that, then most.
Right.
And I know that because we've taken over cases for them, and we've gotten their files, and there's my stuff. So we know that that's what's happening.
And what I love, it's not just theory. It's
real.
It's real.
Right.
You've done it. You've lived it, and so. That's exactly what struck me in reading this. And,
so I distilled. I took 30 years of knowledge and distilled it down to a plainly written, well organized, easy to follow, step by step guide to. And so the first four, for example, I even break down in the intro. I break down how the book is broken down. So the first four chapters, I present the four main pillars. Okay. And then the rest of the chapters are dedicated to one specific thing. For example, chapter 4 is all about 5200, Civil Code 5200, and the right to documents and how to get them. Now, I don't just talk about how important it is and what your rights are. I tell you what documents you're entitled to, and I give you the statutory basis for each of them. And then I tell you how to write the demand. Nobody's ever done that.
Right.
I give you the tips and tricks that I developed over the years in coming up with our systems at our law firms that we still use.
Right.
And I'm sharing them with everybody. Nobody's ever done that.
One thing you and I have not discussed before, and I'll add this kind of sua sponte. What I loved about this book is first off, it has nuance. It is thorough, and you capture the interplay between the civil code, the governing documents, case law, how this plays out in real life in practical ways.
Right.
And in a very both creative but also comprehensive manner.
And I was very careful to do a couple things in the book. Number one is I don't cite any cases as far as I remember. I don't cite one case because lay people don't understand how case law works. I don't know how to read a case. I don't expect them to go look up a case. They don't even, you can find them on Google, but I'm not expecting that. So why even do that? I talk about what case law, I talk about what the courts have decided.
Right.
But what I do is I cite the Davis-Sterling Act. But I don't quote from it. If you want to look it up, look it up. I give you the means to do more on your own, but you don't have to. So I might talk about the power of 5200, but then I go and explain what 5200 says in very, very simple language. And then I talk about how you can apply it practically. And then forget that. Here's what you need to demand. If you want to use this power, here's how you use this power. And here's what you should cite. Now, whether you look it up or not is up to you. But it's not, I didn't create a law school text.
Right.
I give you as much tools or as many tools as you want to explore on your own. And if you don't want to look at anything other than my book, you've got all your answers there. You don't have to look up a thing. But if you want to, you know where to look.
And again, not to belabor the issue, but the fact that it's practical and not just some theoretical, collection of just annotations, and it's the kind of thing that I foresee someone who does consultations with us or an actual client, legitimate questions, real life scenarios that they are navigating, really utilizing, and taking away something that is distilled down to the essence of it, but gives them enough substance where they can actually do something with it and apply it. So early in the book,
one other thing before you get to the next point, I want to just jump on something you said. I give away a lot of what we call secrets, right? I do.
You do.
And is that going to cost the firm money? Maybe. Maybe it will. Maybe people that would come to us to do a 5200 demand for them will do it on their own now. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because
you're really empowering them.
Yes. I'm okay with that because I know that there's so many really bad boards out there. It's not going to matter. I'm not worried about losing some business because I'm going to gain the trust of the people that read the book. And if there's an issue that is beyond the powers of a book, then I know that they'll come to us if they trust that I've given them the best advice I can. So I've given away some stuff that we make money on, and I don't care.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway, I just wanted to add that.
I mean, as far as our audience and listeners, I mean, I also like to think of us having built and established some rapport with them.
Right.
And so you're just taking that a step further. It's a very natural, organic progression, as I see it, of you're just kind of giving the goods and kind of letting them see behind the curtain in terms of how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Exactly.
So real quick, Mike, early in the book, you write that the deck is stacked against you in terms of the dynamic within homeowners living in HOAs, but that doesn't render them powerless. What do you mean by that?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I spend a good deal of time at the beginning of the book when I'm setting up what's the Davis-Sterling Act, what is an HOA board, what's it composed of, why do they have so much power? I talk about the power imbalance, and of course there's a power imbalance. For example, they collect money from everybody, and they've got this huge pocketbook of money collected from all the members that you don't have, right? If you've got to fight them, you're fighting on your own.
Right.
They've got access to lawyers and consultants. You don't.
Yeah.
Okay? They have powers. They have the ability to issue fines, right? You don't. If they do something wrong, you can't call a board member to a hearing and issue a fine. You can't get a posse together of homeowners and establish your own kangaroo court.
Right.
This statute doesn't allow that, but allows them to do that. So there's an automatic power imbalance. But the law also gives homeowners specific rights, not only affirmative rights, but in limitations on the rights of HOA boards. And that's where HOA homeowner power comes from. So what I do in the book, and this is chapter 12 in a nutshell, which is the culmination, it's the end of the book, right? This is where I draw everything together that you've learned, okay? And I talk about, and this is something that's never existed. I created this. I call it combining rights and building leverage.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into details now because I want people to read this book because it is unique, and it's something I came upon the last couple of years. So this isn't something, it wasn't part of my system before that I taught those others.
And I believe we briefly touched upon it in one of the podcast episodes.
I tried not to.
Yeah. Not too extensively.
But individual rights, it doesn't feel like a lot. Okay. But when you learn to think about some of the different rights that seem discrete strategically, and you learn to combine them, now you've got something.
Right.
And that's what chapter 12 is about. How to take these seemingly discrete rights, put them together into something that makes the board pay attention when they could have easily ignored you before. Yeah. That building leverage by combining rights is unique, and it's laid out in precious detail. That's what I meant by that.
Love it.
Homeowners have tremendous power. Are they ever going to be on equal footing? No. But they can sure reclaim a good deal of it back.
Okay, Mike, so let's dig into the toolkit. The book walks the readers through specific civil code sections, right? All parts of the Davis-Sterling Act, as you explained, and shows exactly how to use them. And I love the way it does it in a very practical, user-friendly sense. Can you give the listeners a taste of that by perhaps, maybe referring to one or two of the most important and common rights homeowners overlook or perhaps are confused with?
I've got a chapter on 5200. We'll talk about that in a second. I've got a chapter on member discipline. I've got a chapter on reserve studies and assessments. I've got a chapter on architectural control. So each chapter is dedicated to a very broad area that is immediately relevant to every homeowner living in an HOA in California. Okay? So I'll give you, for a couple examples, I'll give you two. Okay? Let's start with 5200.
Okay.
The reason I always bring this one up, and we talk about 5200 in at least 24 episodes so far, okay, is because It is one of the most underused and powerful tools that homeowners have, and most of them have no idea how powerful it is, how broad it is, how useful it is, and how much of a stick, speaking in terms of carrot and stick, how much of a stick they have against an HOA that abuses. So 5200 is the right of an HOA member to view and copy HOA-related documents. There is a whole host of documents that they can see. Pretty much any financial document that you can think of, from check registers to bank statements to credit card statements to reimbursement requests for a board being reimbursed for, expending personal money for something and they get reimbursed. All that, okay? If it's taxes, whatever. If it's financially related, if your HOA spends your money on it, you have a right to pretty much any document related to that, okay? So that's financial docs. There's a whole host of other docs.
Yeah.
What I do in the book, in chapter 4 in particular, is I explain what 5200 is. I then list, I think it's, and I'm guessing here, 18 to 21 or something of the documents that over the years are the ones we've requested. I mean, there are documents that I've never asked for in my life, and so I don't include them in the list.
Right.
Because I just don't care about them, okay? And I provide this long list, and then I provide the actual section in the 5200 et sec series in the the Davis Sterling Act that supports the right to that document. So not only, and the reason I did that is because in the early days we'd do a document demand, and we'd get pushback. We'd go back and forth with the HOA about, well, what's your statutory authority for this book or that book? And then they play games because the statute isn't so clearly written as I would have written it if it was me that would have listed the documents, right? No, it talks about financial documents or enhanced financial records, and it gives a few examples. But then what about all the things it's not giving? Well, guess what? Over the years, I was able to establish, here are the documents and here are the code sections that support. And so I created that. Now, boards, good HOA boards never have an issue. The bad HOA boards, they hide documents. And they do it in a variety of ways. One, they'll play games and pretend that they're cooperating, but they won't, and they'll stall, or they'll overly redact, which they're limited by what they're allowed to redact. I cover all of this in chapter 4, okay?
Yeah.
Or they'll just refuse. They just, you don't need to see that, okay? There's only one document in the list of all the documents you're entitled to where the board can conceivably ask for your reason for asking for it, and that's the membership list.
That's right, yeah.
And I go into even what they can ask. But every other document, I want it because I want it. That's the reason. You don't need to know why. You don't have to give a reason. Most people don't know that. A lot of board members don't know that. And so why do they hide it? Because they're hiding something. Because if you can look at all the financials, you can more easily uncover or spot red flags, which is one of the big functions of the book.
Yeah.
I in every chapter, I talk about the red flags to look out for and how do you, if you see a red flag, what do you do about it? So in this, I talk about how important transparency is in an HOA and how the right to documents is a way to guarantee that. And so what's the only type of board that doesn't want transparency? A bad board.
Yeah.
So that's one example, okay? Yeah. And then, and by the way, citing those civil code citations is later on in that same chapter when I talk about, okay, here's how you write your letter to the board when you want any of these documents. Not only do I explain why I provide the statutes, I explain here's what you put in the letter.
Yeah.
And I include, make sure you put not only the document you want, but that statutory citation because it takes away a lot of the wind from their sails.
Anticipatorily. And I love that you did that because
Exactly.
it's a very common frequent source of confusion because
nobody does that.
Lump them together and they'll ask them to synthesize something completely different or arbitrary. And so the way you have itemized that with the subsections, that's
and
fantastic.
That's important. The itemizations too, is we've had a lot of clients who've done their own 5200 demands and they come to us when they don't get cooperation. And we look and we see, we can understand why the HOA was able to buy some time here. There's a problem. You're combining too many, like in one request, you ask for 3 sets of things. Well, the problem with that is you're limiting your own penalties that you're entitled to. And I talk about why you want to separate all these, but also you don't want them to be able to, let's say you ask for 4 things in one one site, right? You ask for 4 different things, and they only want to argue about one of them. Well, they can conceivably argue about all 4 by saying this is an improper request. By breaking it down, you force them to refuse you specifically what they're refusing you. They have to identify it. It's pretty cool, okay?
Indeed. Yep.
So that's that. Then let's talk about, there's a chapter I go into reserves, and special assessment, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We have a 2-part episode on reserve studies. We talked about that percent funded number and why it was so critical. In the book, I show you how to read those. What do the columns mean? What are the 3 most important columns, right? We talked about that in our podcast, our 2-part episode on reserves. I go into a lot more detail in the book. And that dollar figure, homeowners probably look at the percent funded number because it's in the summaries every year.
Yeah.
And they don't know what it means. A lot of them don't. Or they'll look at how much money's in the account and, oh, that looks like a lot.
Yeah.
But they don't understand what that figure means. That figure could be high, and still you could be in the 40th, 50th percentile,
right?
Which is disastrous. Okay, so I teach you how to evaluate the number.
Right.
That's so critical because nothing is more important to your HOA and to your individual pocketbooks than the financial health of your HOA. Because if there's a financial lack of health, you're going to be specially assessed at one point or another. And special assessments, tens of thousands of dollars. It's not easy. Not very many people can sit down and write a check for 25, 30, 40 grand here and give it to their HOA. And I will say this, absent a true act of God emergency, like an earthquake causes a building to collapse or a tree falls through and destroys a building, whatever. Absent that, a special assessment of a large amount is almost always going to be a result of systematic and systemic failure.
It's
and negligence on the part of the board, period.
Massive red flag. And the trickle-down effect of bad financial health or bad reserves is just, it's so profound because it impacts everything else, invariably.
And your pocketbook, because you will write a check.
Right.
You will write a check. So, to me, a special assessment of 30, 40 grand in the absence of a true, like the Palisades fire. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
True disaster of epic proportions, something that never happened before. You know, I went to law school at UCLA. I coached soccer. I coached youth soccer, a club team, and I had a lot of my kids lived in Brentwood and Pacific Palisades. I was at Pali High School all the time. I was downtown Palisades all the time. I bought food at Gelson's there. You know, that's gone. Pali High School, almost all gone. All that place gone. That never happened before. I mean, that was over 30 years ago. And it disappeared last year, right? Or this year. When were the fires? Earlier this year, right?
This year, yeah.
Yeah, this year. So when you have a disaster of that sort, century, once in a century maybe type of disaster, I can understand a huge HOA special assessment. But absent that, it is unforgivable.
Right.
In my opinion, if you're writing a check to your HOA for 20, 30, 40 grand, it's unforgivable.
Except for we see it all the time,
Except
unfortunately.
we're seeing it way too often. Not once in a while, all the time.
All the time, yep.
This book teaches you how to read that reserve study to figure out whether or not you have enough red flags to start worrying. And if you are worrying, what do you do about it? It's all in the book.
And that's what I like about it. It's not just some theory. It's also, step-by-step guide, practical measures, and it shows you tactics in terms of how to deploy these things.
Right, exactly.
To take the scary nature of, especially for the math challenge folks, of what
like
to do
me.
with that. I mean, myself as well at times. And it really simplifies it so that the average layperson, homeowner can relate to it, can kind of work through that as a step-by-step guide, so to speak.
Let me go one more. I said I would only give you 2, and I'm going to give one more. There's a whole chapter on architectural control. We talked about that a minute ago, okay?
Yeah.
I walk people through the limitations on the powers that the board has to mandate what you do or don't do with your property. Everybody knows that HOAs, you submit plans and they're deny, and the HOAs have the power to say yes or no. That's ubiquitous. Everybody knows that. But the power to say yes or no is while it's broad, and HOAs have, under the business judgment rule, which I define and talk about, they have power to do that. It is limited.
It is.
And the power has to be exercised properly. I talk to you, not only do I cite words like, they can't be arbitrary and capricious, but I tell you what those words mean within the meaning of the Davis-Sterling Act in plain English, and then I give examples so that you can see how what does arbitrary mean in a real scenario with a real example of a real HOA. I have case studies in several of the chapters where I actually have a little case study, and it says case study, and it's in a square.
Yeah.
So it's easy to spot, okay? Where whatever thing I was just talking about, I give a real life example that brings it home, okay? So I not only go through the limitations on the powers, but also what do you do when they overstep? And I went even further than that. I outlined very specifically several areas where the government, California, the legislature, has severely limited HOA power. I go into detail about drought-resistant plants, solar, okay, solar panels, stuff like that, or the right to build an ADU. I have whole sections on that in the book. And remedies if they go too far.
It's really great. It's fantastic. I mean, I said it before, not just legal theory, it's tactics, it's a practical guide. You even have some really, what I think are, from a practice, oriented vantage point, you have some cautionary notes in terms of potential foreseeable pitfalls.
Yes.
So what to look out for, right? So that
right.
not to fall into the common traps that we frequently encounter. Okay, Mike, so in the last chapter where you pull everything together and present your never before shared recipe for success, you talk about building leverage by stacking rights. Can you briefly explain what that process entails and what that concept, covers essentially?
Okay, so I kind of spilled I'm going to mix my metaphors. I kind of spilled the kitty on this by talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give too much away because it really is the one brand new thing that nobody's ever thought of. I've never seen it in writing. I've never seen it taught by anybody. I came up with this as part of the system that I developed, and I'm presenting it for the first time in this book. Other than I've taught the people that work here now. But I think maybe I can respond generally, okay? Because I really don't want to go too far. I approach it from the angle that a homeowner, instead of looking at individual rights or powers that they have individually, to think of each right or power as one isolated piece of leverage, okay? Now, alone, you can get stuff done with that.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about on your own. With a lawyer on your side, even one is enough. But for a layperson, it might not be, okay? And so maybe not as helpful to have one. So I teach you, well, let's get one and let's grab another and let's grab another and let's put them together and build leverage. So let me give you an example. A records demand. We've been talking about 5200 not only today repeatedly, but in dozens of our episodes. I think almost in every episode we talk about in some way 5200, right? So a record demand might expose financial shenanigans or financial errors or financial red flags, right? A due process challenge, for example, failure to have a fee schedule, or fining you more than the statute allows, AB 130, the $100 limit, or not giving you sufficient notice before a hearing, or not letting you, presenting the case against you, right? Whatever it is, a due process violation, it might by itself, if proved, invalidate a fine, right? Yeah. A disclosure review. It might show that the board has failed to issue an annual budget summary or one of the required annual. We talk about in the 5300 series, we talk about the budget summaries and the policy required disclosure that have to be made.
Yeah.
So maybe failure to disclose opens up a violation of 5300, right?
Right, yeah.
Separately, they could be minor violations. But when you add those together in a smart way, like I talk about how to do in the book, you are now presenting them with a triumvirate of, 3-part dragon. You're giving them.
I mean, you're coherently and methodically aggregating, essentially.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So suffice it to say that I teach homeowners how to combine various discrete rights or powers into one weapon that they can use to maximize the leverage that the law gives them. Okay. And then I give real world examples because it's always important. It's not enough to tell you, do this or do that. You got to tell them how to do this or do that. Okay. It wouldn't help if I said, you have the right to these documents, and so write a letter and demand those documents. Yeah. That doesn't solve the problem,
right? Because
HOAs know how to get around that. That's trite. That's what our competition does in that one person's book. All right? That's the kind of garbage that was in that book. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not enough to do that. How do you write that letter? What should you say in that letter? Why should you say it that way in that letter?
And that's especially important to those who don't do this routinely. I mean, for many of these homeowners, it may be one first time or once every multiple years, so they don't really do this on a routine, ongoing basis. So I think that's fantastic.
And they don't think like lawyers. We're trained in law school. It's one of the few things you learn in law school. You don't learn how to be a lawyer. You learn how to think like a lawyer, which is important. But as lawyers in this industry, we see this every day. This is second nature, how to think. This is new to most homeowners, entirely new. So things we consider obvious are not obvious. I make them obvious.
So let me ask you this. Is it fair to characterize that process of stacking and building, your case, so to speak, and bolstering through various avenues? Would it be fair to say that it teaches the homeowners to really build their own high-pressure campaign? Is that a fair characterization in your view?
Yes. I call it strategic persistence. Okay? How to do it without emotion, with no confrontation until it's time. There's a time for confrontation, okay? But if you can exercise your rights in a non-emotional way, in a non-confrontational way, until it's time to be confrontational, then you often will get much further, much more quickly, okay?
Agreed.
So this isn't just a methodical enforcement lesson. It's a strategic persistence lesson.
Yeah. And there's a lot of wisdom in that, to put it one way.
Right.
Okay, let's briefly touch in terms of the real world results. Okay, so you share some success stories in your book, and I've read them probably multiple times.
And some of them were from cases that you probably had a hand in.
Real cases that you've extrapolated from, that you and I have discussed several times as well.
On the podcast.
Where homeowners have successfully and very effectively turned things around, right?
Either because of us or with us or on their own, but mostly
100%.
with us.
And you also, you take that opportunity to also present some quick tips and tricks, to just kind of maximize the takeaway for the average reader. So those are on discrete topics. You've broken them down very nicely in terms of the most commonly encountered issues. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Tell us.
I did that in two ways. I did that in two separate ways, both of which I think are helpful. Okay? In my opinion, I wouldn't have done it. Okay? Number one, I mentioned one of these before. Throughout the book, not in every single chapter, but in several of the chapters, I have at least one case study which directly illustrates or extrapolates as a real example the principle or lesson I just taught. Okay? Yeah. So those appear throughout. But something else I did, and I did this in between, at the end of every chapter, there is a page that is gray. So the pages are cream colored. And the reason I did it in gray is if you hold the book sideways, you see a bunch of, if you fan the book, you can see the gray lines and you can skip to those. Yeah. Those are if you've watched our podcast, the 1 minute attorney tips that I do, the 90-second videos, the 1 minute attorney tips or the HOA Q&As, where I handle one discrete issue in a minute and a half, that's what those are. Yeah. Okay? I handle one discrete question and answer or one discrete issue. For example, one of them is, can a non-member serve on a board? And I spend a page on that. It's gray and it's in a box, right? Yeah. And those gray pages precede the chapter that talks about whatever it is. In one case, right before the chapter on the disclosures, the mandatory disclosures in 5300, I actually have, I did this at the end of the chapter. It was the only time I did it after. I actually made two tables. A table of the mandatory financial related disclosures and a table of the mandatory policy related disclosures. I listed every disclosure they're required to give you and the statutory basis for that order. And if you don't get every single one of those, boom, you've got cause. Okay? I lay them out in a table. It's easy to see.
And folks can go back to it and re-refer to
it. Now, every one of those gray pages is a practical, real life, applicable immediately tip on one discrete issue.
Yeah.
No fluff.
Which, by the way, has been implemented and tried and tested.
These are all battle-tested.
Real conditions.
Every single one of these is battle-tested.
So let me ask you this. The timing of all of this. You've obviously been practicing nearly 30 years, if I'm correct. And you've been a pioneer on the homeowner representation side and advocacy with HOA disputes and beyond that in many ways. And so why publish now? What prompted this at this stage?
There's a few reasons. I've been planning to write this book since 2018. Okay? And I didn't. There was a million reasons not to. Okay? It really took a lot of time. Okay? And I procrastinated. Earlier this year, March or April of this year, a former employee of mine who runs his own firm, I hired this person out of law school. Okay, former employer of mine published a book on the homeowner side. I read it. I bought it, and I read it.
I've seen it.
Okay, I read it. I was horrifically disappointed. Not only was it just a good degree of fluff and obvious cliche and anecdotal information and statements of the obvious, there was precious little practical help. More importantly, there were serious errors in the law, a fundamental misunderstanding on the part of the author of what the Davis-Sterling Act actually says, a lack of depth of knowledge. I was very chagrined, let me tell you. I wrote this book. That's what kicked me in the butt to write this book. There were mistakes, and I'm gonna reflect on a couple of them in the article that I'm writing. Just mistakes that will lead people astray. Just information that is contrary to what the law says. Just they're in the book. That really, really bothered me.
So in a sense, you felt compelled to correct, add nuance, add substance.
I felt compelled not only to correct, but to write the book that should have been written. Okay? This is the book that I'm sure he thought he was writing.
Okay.
But he lacks the depth of knowledge to write the book. It's that simple. And I'm not saying that to be bitter. I'm saying that because it's true. And if anybody that's read that book and reads mine will see night and day.
So is it fair to say you also broadly sensed a void, a lack of perhaps substance, nuance, a practical guide, and this was your opportunity to cure that? It was
the book I always intended to write.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's not the only reason I wrote the book. Like I said, I've been wanting to write this since 2018. Okay. The law keeps changing. There are changes in the Davis-Sterling Act pretty frequently. Sometimes more major than others. For example, several years ago, there was a renumbering of the statutes, right? That was a massive change in the Davis-Sterling Act. They're not all like that. AB 130, for example, kicked in June 30th this year. It made changes to several statutes in the Davis-Sterling Act and some statutes that aren't.
Yeah.
Like Civil Code 714, which is not part of the Davis-Sterling Act, but still important, right? Sometimes these changes add a new subsection of a statute that already exists. Sometimes it adds a new section entirely. But the laws are changing, and there was no catching up. I don't see a lot of people aren't writing like I'm writing articles, almost daily. A lot of people aren't doing that, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. Old versions of the Davis-Sterling Act, things that aren't up to date, like what's with the electronic voting, right? That kicked in at the beginning of 2025. Most HOAs haven't switched over yet because it's going to take a little time because there's so much vetting that has to be done with the machinery and all that. We have an episode on that, I think. Do we?
We do.
We do. Okay. They run together because I've...
Yeah, I know.
I write articles and I can't remember if it's an article or a podcast or both.
And just to give the audience just like a mere glimpse behind the curtain, and I hope you don't mind if I'm sharing this.
I don't know. Let's see.
Just the way your mind works, and you guys, for those watching or listening, you pour so much time and so much effort into these in terms of your research, your diligence, and how meticulous you are. So you really care about what you put out there. And when you do this, whether it's through the podcast education that we do, or the articles or the fact sheets, and ultimately the book, really pulling a lot of this and what's not been mentioned before coherently into this
I've
manual.
already started my second book.
It's just, I mean, I give you a hard time sometimes. I'm like, I mean, why are you putting all this, above and beyond time and effort into, just going that next level? And I think really those who take the time to look into it, whether it's by way of purchasing the book, going to the website, looking at your articles, the depth of knowledge, the practical guidance that you kind of impart,
especially the fact sheets.
I think they're really well served. They would be well served, and they would be the direct and residual beneficiaries of all of those countless hours that you've poured into this process.
I agree, and I do it for a reason. First of all, part of my personality, just the OCD I have, prevents me from taking a shortcut. I try as I might
I know. Yeah.
I don't want to spend the time. I really do. I've told you this. I've lamented to you
Yeah.
many times that it's killing me. I mean, it takes a good deal out of me because everything I write has to be accurate, and it has to be written in a way that, a reasonably intelligent person can understand it without having to look any words up. I mean, that's hard.
And you really care. I mean, we've had this in our separate meetings and even the lunch meetings that we have with our other colleagues, and you care. I mean, I see this persistently where that's always, and I'm a bit very just curiously watching from afar too. And in the decades that you've practiced, you're not jaded, you've not lost that, you care. And you care about these homeowners.
I care too much sometimes. I get emotional. I get angry on behalf of my clients, and that kind of drives some of my. I have you read some of the stuff that I send out before I send it out to tone me down. Okay, you've done that before. I look to you to do that because I get emotional. I don't want our clients to be emotional, but I get emotional.
Yeah.
And when I get emotional, but I know I am. I need somebody to rein me in, and that's what you help me with sometimes.
I appreciate you saying that, yeah.
And there's a couple others at the firm I do the same thing if you're not available. But yeah, look, thank you for saying all that. I know this podcast, this episode is turning into a kind of a glorify me. It's not what the book is, by the way. It's not a glorify our firm or glorify me. It's the actual manual self-help guide for homeowners. This podcast, I get, there's no way to talk about something that I've written without it sounding like we're bragging, but I'm proud of it for a reason. I can say this because I know how much time I put in. I know the quality of the work, that this is a fantastic book.
And allow me to say this very briefly. This is not mere self-promotion.
And you, by the way, this is all you. I did not write this for you.
No, this is not. No,
you.
And I'm freelancing, and even I'm going off of my own notes. And the reason I can do that, and I can do that very comfortably and confidently. I'm not some kind of a hype man or sycophant. You know me.
I know.
I'm.
Sometimes I want a sycophant, and I don't get one. I get it. No, you're right.
But the point is that I wholeheartedly believe in what I'm saying, and so it's nice to see that, and someone you work with and work for. Because it kind of keeps us, on the right path in the sense of really doing this effectively and being very transparent about it.
I want to say one thing. I think I point this out in the book. In fact, I'm sure I do at some point. I just don't know. I don't remember where I put it. But I talk about it when it's time to go get a lawyer to help you with your HOA issue. How do you pick a good HOA lawyer? Mm-hmm. Okay, you can't just go to a regular real estate lawyer. I explain why in the book. That's just, you can't. Yep. They don't know the Davis-Sterling Act. We see that time and again when we take over cases that they've messed up.
Major mistakes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you need an HOA lawyer. An HOA lawyer is a lawyer that's an expert in the Davis-Sterling Act. How do you pick one? I give a list of questions you need to ask and things that you need to confirm before you hire one. And one of the most important ones that I list is go to their website and read the publications by that law firm. Read the articles that the partners at that firm have written. Mm-hmm. If those articles are written with typos, grammatical mistakes, fragmented sentences, misstatements of the law, which I don't recognize a layperson to recognize, but there are ones where they talk about statutes that aren't even relevant to the issue. Yeah, they just throw out statutes that are completely irrelevant. We saw that in a lot of these, right?
Yeah.
But if you see the typos and the grammar errors, or it's hard to read because it's not organized in a way that is pleasing to the eye, that allows you to follow the article. Like, what's a sub? Is there a bullet points? If it looks like an SEO dump, okay?
Yeah.
If it looks like slick marketing over actual information and help, run like mad, because that law firm is showing you this is our best foot forward, and here's how much care we put into what we serve to the public. Here's what we think. Imagine how they're going to treat your case.
The way you do anything is the way you do everything, essentially.
Right. Practice the way you, real life, right? How you going I teach karate, okay? I teach karate to black belts, okay? I tell my students, and I say this, and I learned this from my instructor. I didn't make this up. In a real situation, you don't ever rise to the occasion. You fall to your training. Mm-hmm. People think, when it's real, I'll rise to the occasion. No, you fall to your training. So you need to overtrain so that when you fall, you're up here, okay? Mm-hmm. I teach that because it's real. Same thing in the law. If what they're presenting to the public, here's our work.
Yeah.
Imagine how they're going to treat your case. If what they're presenting is their best foot forward represents sloppy crud, then don't go to that law firm.
Yeah.
That is a mantra running through my head. I make it clear
Yeah.
Everything I write needs to be, number one, accurate. Number two, easy to read. And number three, helpful. Then I'll say, okay, what does SEO say? I should include certain terms.
Right.
Yeah, fourth. But the first three are the most important.
The profit-oriented endeavor aspect of it is inevitably part of it. But like you said, fourth, right?
Right.
There needs to be actual substance. There needs to be actual service.
It has to be
needs to be
helpful.
conscionable. And then, in my view, and I think you absolutely echo this on a daily basis and reinforce it to all of us, is there needs to be a sense of pride in terms of standing behind the
Agreed.
work and the service.
Yes. And I'm proud of my articles and I'm proud of my book because I met the three right off the bat.
Yeah.
Helpful,
Yeah.
accurate, and written in a way that anybody can understand. If you can't do those three things, then you're lost. It's not, number one shouldn't be write it so everybody can understand it, because what you're saying has to have meaning,
Yeah.
has to be accurate, and has to be helpful. If you're just giving trite phrases like HOAs have more power than you, and HOAs that have more power can cause you harm. Great, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
How do I fix it?
Right.
Give me specifics.
And these things are not just mere leisure reading, right? Or to get like some motivational talk or some hyperbole. It really needs to be a guide. So with your book, it really is the missing manual, right? So, and I notice at the end you call HOA Hell, the book, a map out of it.
Yes, a map out of hell.
Out of hell, essentially,
Yes,
right?
yes,
so
yes.
so that really stuck with me in terms of just like that portion of it.
I was being poetic.
Yeah. So elaborate, please, if you can. Yeah.
I do reserve the right to be poetic sometimes when I'm writing, okay? So obviously the metaphor I chose for my book was HOA Hell because your home is, in my case, it's certainly true. It's my biggest asset, my biggest single asset, okay? It is also a place of refuge. It's where your family is. It's you work and you go through the stresses of life. You go home at the end of the day. That should be ideally a place of peace and a place of where you have the best memories and moments of your life where you're building your family and building memories, right?
Absolutely.
When that is pressured because of bad neighbors or bad HOA or whatever's happening, it turns what's supposed to be your best place into, in the worst case scenarios, hell.
Yeah.
And that makes life hell. And so this is your home. I recognize that.
Yeah.
Okay? So I want to teach you not only what the law is, but how to use the law. Because once you understand the law and how to use it, you'll start to see exits everywhere from the problems you're having. Okay?
Yeah.
The system might be stacked against you just because of the sheer imbalance of power that will never go away. It's the way our system is designed, for better or for worse, okay? And that'll never change. But it's far from unbeatable. It's far from hopeless. I give tools, techniques, and tips on how to navigate your way through some of the most difficult stuff. And in the end, sometimes it's not enough. And that's when you come to us. That's when you would come to our law firm, okay? So we're running out of time. We spent a lot of time on it, and I don't want this to be too long because we're probably boring people. Let's talk about how to get the book, okay?
Let's go.
Let's do our call to action here, okay?
Okay.
Obviously, I want you people to read this book because I'm proud of it, and I know if I were a layperson or an attorney, like we represent a lot of attorneys.
We do.
Litigators.
Yeah.
Okay? They just are, business litigators or insurance or they deal with, wills and trusts, whatever. They aren't HOA.
I have 3 attorney clients right now.
Yeah. So we teach, if I wasn't the lawyer that did this area of the law, this would be the book I'd want, and I'd read it vociferous. I'd have it done within a day, and I would use it, okay? The book is easy to get, okay? It comes out for general distribution on December 15th,
Yeah.
but it is available now for pre-order. It means you won't get it right now, but you can pre-order it, and it is at a slight discount now. If you get it before December 15th, it's discounted. It's available by Kindle on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com or, don't use your app because for whatever reason, if you use the app, it won't let you do it. You got to go to the website. But you go to Amazon.com, type in HOA Hell, you'll find it. It's probably number 1, okay? Or you can go to BarnesandNoble.com and order a soft cover or a hardcover right now, okay? Then December 15th comes along and bam, the books will get shipped.
Yeah.
And then I want to hear from people. It's not hard. It's not hard to get, okay? I made it as easy as I could.
No, congratulations. I mean, it's great timing. I know that, perhaps it makes a great gift if you have a friend, family member,
We've had a few current clients order 2 already.
Yeah.
One for them and one for a neighbor.
They did. I mean, everyone knows someone who lives in an HOA and it has
not possible not
stories
to.
from hell, right? And so again, congratulations. I think the book is phenomenal. I hope our viewers and listeners get their copy, and I really truly believe it will empower folks. I mean, even if they were to hypothetically utilize one out of the chapters that you have, that in itself, it's worth, the book value 10 times over.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
If this helps you in one situation, not call a lawyer or get a letter from a lawyer, even a letter, right?
Yeah.
You've paid for the book because book's not expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, books aren't expensive.
And it's a manual. You can always go back and refer to the various sections whenever.
Get a highlighter out and start putting highlights and sticky notes in the book. Treat it that way. I would love that. Yeah. I'd love nothing more to see a beat up book, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you for doing this.
No,
and thank you for
a lot
of the stuff you said. I had no idea you were going to say. It's appreciated. You stroked my ego, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go meet right now with actually the people at Barnes & Noble because we're going to do a in-person event at our local Barnes & Noble. And maybe they're going to tell us what they want, but it could be a reading or it could be just a book signing. I don't know, but we're looking forward to that. I've gone to a couple of those for authors that I like.
That should be fun, yeah.
So that should be fun to see some people there. But I have also given some advanced copies out to some clients, and they've found it helpful so far. So I'm hearing good things. I'm happy about that. I think it's going to be a game changer. So
glad to hear it.
Buy the book, folks, not just because, I make a little bit of money. It's not a lot. It's not enough to make any difference in my life, but because I think it's helpful. Because I think no matter who you are in this state, if you live in an HOA, this book will help you. Now, it'll help some people more than others. Mm-hmm. The worse your HOA, the more it'll help you. Mm-hmm. Okay? If you live in a good HOA like I do, it'll help you a little bit. If you live in a bad HOA, it'll help you a lot. If you live in an HOA from hell, it can make all the difference. And it can offer what I poetically put is the map out of hell, okay? Mm-hmm. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you want to leave a message or ask a question, please do so. We love reading those. If you haven't already subscribed, please, we love subscribers. We're getting more and more on those as word of our podcast is going out, and it warms the cockles of my heart that that's happening. Until next time, folks, have a great day.